Hi, everybody. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hello. Good night.
Yes.
Hey, Seth or anyone, could you just give us a sense of how many people you need for quorum and how many people short you are?
Hi, Max, we need one more, so we're holding for another couple minutes. We will get started in any case soon, but I'll give it another couple minutes just to try to get
Okay.
more here.
No problem. I understand. Thank you.
Thanks, Max.
All right,
All right.
good evening.
Yeah, that's Sorry, everyone. All right, good evening, everyone. This is the State Licenses and Permits Committee, Committee Board 5. I'm Seth Borden, your committee chair. And before we get started, we'll quickly go around the room so that committee members can introduce themselves. So I'll start with Yoda.
I'm Yoden Borden. I'm vice chair. That's all.
Lev Kimiago, board member, recently appointed.
Gail Kelly, board member.
Smirlinga, board member.
Kevin Thompson, board member.
Andrea Ing, board member.
And we'll go online to the top.
Todd Shapiro, board member.
And last but not least, we have Zona here online as well. So we have 4 items on the agenda tonight. First is new business, and we'll do Mission Ceviche at 7 East 17th Street. We'll do the regulation on cannabis showcase events third, and then fourth, we'll have statement of district needs. So before we get started with the agenda, we'll start with new business. So is there anyone attending, including members of the public, who has any business for the committee other than the items on the agenda that I just read out? If so, please raise your hand now, online or in person. And please note that now is not the time to comment on Mission Ceviche. That will come in just a few minutes. So, hi, Ellen, do you have an item that's not Mission Ceviche? Hi, Ellen, can you hear me?
Are you addressing me? It's really hard to tell what's going on.
Yes, do you have a comment, for any new business for the committee that's not, Mission Ceviche? We saw you.
No, no, I'm here because of Mission Ceviche, and I'd like to know if we're going to be able to see who is here, the community members, the people who live in this area. Are we going to be able to see who's here?
We will not have a full list right now, but we will have that list, available after the meeting.
Okay, and also I couldn't understand people when they said their name. They said it way too fast. I couldn't understand it at all.
Gotcha, thank you very much. All right, well, we'll hear comments in just a few minutes here on Mission Ceviche. So with that, we will kick off our first item, which is a request for modification of a liquor license at 7 East 17th Street. This is Mission Ceviche. For this application, Andrea took the lead and has already done a great deal of work to gather community input for the committee to consider. On the table here, we have both the existing affidavit, which is from several years back, and that's the one in force now. And we also have a list of stipulations that Andrea and the applicant have been negotiating. So this is an initial list of stipulations that we can discuss. So we will start, I'll just explain how the process will go and then we'll kick it off. So we'll start with a short summary of the proposed method of operation from the applicant who's here tonight. Andrea will then briefly summarize her findings and key points we'll want to consider as a committee. And that will include negotiated stipulations. Her summary will then be followed by a Q&A session when members of the committee can ask questions by raising their hand and waiting to be recognized. Then I'll open the floor to the public who can provide their comments on the application at that time. And after that, we'll go into business session during which only committee members will discuss the topic. And at that point, no further input from the applicant or the public is appropriate unless we request it. During the business session, we'll discuss the topic, there will be a motion, and the committee will take a vote. The vote of this committee will be a recommendation to the full board of CB5, which will meet on Thursday, November 13th. And the vote of the full board will be CB5's position on the topic. So with that introduction, I'll hand things over to the applicant to give a quick summary of the application, just at a high level, sort of what the proposed method of operation is. And I see we have Max online as well as
Yes. Alberto and Brice.
And gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for turning it over to me. Thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you for SLAP committee members for your time tonight. Thank you to Andrea for the work you've put in over the summer and over the course of months working with us to get us here tonight. My name is Max Bookman. I'm an attorney. My law firm is Pazetsky and Bookman. For 40 years, our firm has been appearing in front of Community Board 5 on liquor license matters and state liquor authority matters. I've been doing it for the last 10 years. I'm a 7th generation New Yorker, lived in Manhattan for the last 15 years, raising my 2 young girls here with my wife, all which is to say, very familiar with this process, your role in it, and how it impacts Manhattan residents like us. I do want to introduce tonight Brice Mastroluca and his partner, Alberto Bitar. I'm extremely proud to be representing Mission Ceviche tonight. Just to give some background, so you have the complete picture, especially for committee members who may not have been here in 2022. Mission Ceviche is a classic New York success story. Little steps, one by one. Brice first opened Mission Ceviche when it was a temporary food stall in Smorgasburg over in Brooklyn. Peruvian food, dishes from his chef's home country in Peru, no alcohol, just a little food stall, and the food was fantastic. That's when I first met him. He graduated to the next little step, a permanent indoor food stall at Canal Street Market, which used to be a food hall over on Canal Street, which went out of business in around COVID times. No alcohol then, but then became a beer and wine license. He then opened his first brick and mortar store, full service restaurant on the Upper East Side. And then in July of 2024, he opened the present location, which has been open and operating for about 15 months now. So this current location is really the culmination of a dream. It's incredibly difficult to open restaurants in New York, let alone have them be successful. And Brice has done that. We did come before you in December 2022 for the original liquor license application. And that's what resulted in the affidavit that you have in front of you. That affidavit was not what we originally proposed. There was definitely give and take. For example, we wanted at the time to have a DJ, a background DJ, never dancing, no dance floor, nothing like that. But what you commonly see in restaurants these days, someone who is a DJ and actively selecting the next song that is played at background levels. We wanted to be open until 2 a.m. And we wanted to be able to have private events like corporate holiday parties in the cellar, because this is a 2-floor establishment. There's a first floor and then there's a windowless cellar downstairs. There was opposition then. They didn't know us. We were new to the neighborhood. There was a lack of trust, frankly. The ask from the opposition was that we be denied outright. But that's not what the SLAP committee did. We always do. We worked on a compromise that balanced everyone's concerns. Nobody walked away happy, but it was that's what compromises are, and that's the affidavit you have in front of you. After operating for now 15 months with no issues, we are looking for the opportunity to have a little more leeway. And so what we initially proposed to you as part of this change application earlier in the year was 4 things, 4 changes to the affidavit. We wanted to add private events to the cellar, which is currently prohibited. We wanted the DJ, again, the same type of DJ I'm talking about, not dancing, not party DJ, but a background music DJ. We wanted to extend the closing hours to 2 a.m., which is what we had originally wanted. We wound up agreeing to midnight. We originally wanted 2 a.m., and that's what we were asking for this summer. And we wanted to add a sidewalk cafe. So those were the 4 changes. Andrea presided over a feedback session over the summer. A lot of voices were heard.
Max, I couldn't hear the first 2. Could you repeat it? What were the
Sure.
first 2?
The first 2 things we were proposing. Adding
Right.
private events to the cellar, Todd, and having the DJ.
Okay, right, which you didn't get and what were the last 2?
Yeah, we didn't get the DJ. So we didn't get the private events in the cellar. So we asked for private events in the cellar. We wanted the DJ. We wanted 2 a.m. because we didn't get 2 a.m. originally. We only got midnight. So we wanted 2 a.m. and we wanted sidewalk cafe.
Got it.
All right. Andrea presided over a feedback session over the summer. We heard a lot of feedback. We actually found it to be mainly positive, the feedback session. I mean, the 2 major takeaways that we had were that there were no complaints concerning the restaurant's current operation, which is truly remarkable because oftentimes when a business is coming to you and they want to change something, you often hear complaints about how they're operating. There were not complaints about the operation. And the second thing was that we had a neighbor who lived directly upstairs from us who was complimentary of the restaurant's operation and was not really opposed to significant aspects of our proposal. That's our direct upstairs neighbor. With that said, there was opposition still, in our view, generally more to the concept of liquor licensing generally in the community, oversaturation of liquor licenses, concerns about deviating from the original agreement. So in light of that feedback, we pared back our new proposal. So the proposal that you have in front of you, that, well, you all have it in front of you, what Andrea put together, is pared back. And so so here are the 4 ways it's pared back. The private events in the cellar, we're going to still have them, but we have limitations on the maximum occupancy and the frequency of those events in the cellar. So the proposal in front of you is yes to private events in the cellar, but capped at 75 people or 74 people, and ending any private event at 11 p.m. That was to address the concern about, are we just opening, a nightclub? We're not. DJ, we're keeping it, but with limitations on it. Only can have the DJ Thursdays through Saturdays and only 8 nights a month. So again, that's to address the concern about, oh my God, are we going to have DJs all the time? No, we're going to have limits on it, and we're okay with that. We pared back the hours of operation significantly. So we, as you've heard me say, we've asked for 2 a.m., but we've now changed that. So the proposal you have in front of you keeps the existing midnight closing hours from Sunday to Wednesday and just pushes it up 1 hour to 1 a.m. for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay. And we agreed to completely withdraw our request for the sidewalk cafe because there was a lot of concerns about the impact of sidewalk cafes, outdoor noise. We were never looking to have a roadway cafe. It was only just a sidewalk cafe, but we withdrew that. These were not easy concessions to make, but we've done it in the spirit of give and take. We think it represents a fair and reasonable balance, which is your job as community board members, and it's not an easy job, but it's to balance your responsibility to, on the one hand, support businesses that are an important part of the fabric of this community, and number 2, the concerns of the residents. I'm sure there'll be more conversation, but I'll leave it there for now. And of course, we're happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Max. With that, I will turn it over to Andrea. I know you gave a full explanation of it. If there's any more you'd like to add and summarize there.
Yeah, so I'm going to first just to give you the key issues of the modification request. The first issue is that there are concerns about the increased noise that these modifications will bring about, especially with DJ events and also creating loud noise, and also there are concerns about the acoustic system, whether it will be added noise to the current venue, and also there are also concerns about having the private events and the combination of having private events and also DJ will draw large crowd to the neighborhood, and also maybe potentially unwanted crowd, and having people being intoxicated and creating a nightclub-like environment. And then, sorry, one moment. So these are key concerns, and one more thing is that these modifications are the very modifications that we negotiated 2 years ago. So there is also concern about setting precedents for to change things that we agreed upon just not long ago. And with that, I also have questions about how. I know we work a lot together on these stipulations. I also want to have questions to the applicants. How can we be assured that you are going to stick to your promises? You mentioned that there will be, background level and there will be no modification to the acoustic system. I want to know how we can be assured of your promise, as well as you previously has done a extensive sound study. And I will also love to, have a summary of what recommendations you have adopted into your design to mitigate the sound and haze inside the restaurant.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, Andrea. I'm happy to address those points and thank you for the questions. So I'll take them in order. First, the concern about just setting a precedent. Yes, as we both know, that idea came up at the feedback session over the summer, which was essentially, hey, we all made a deal in 2022 and now you want to go back on the deal. But I want to push back on that notion because as anyone who's been on a community board long enough knows, a common and standard dynamic in the liquor licensing process is for businesses, after they've established a track record of respect and compliance, to return to the community board to ask for a little more leeway. Businesses are entitled to grow. All businesses must grow. And it is a typical approach to return to the community board. Now, that doesn't mean that you are obligated. We're not saying you're obligated to give us anything we're asking for. We're not saying that you must. Or that we're entitled to it, but we're entitled to have a conversation about it and have a discussion about what kind of neighbors we've been over the last 15 months. And are we the types of neighbors who demonstrated that we can be trusted and that we respect the neighborhood? So this is very typical in community boards all across Manhattan. So that you're not setting a precedent by essentially rewarding us for good behavior. And that's hard to come by. And not every restaurant does operate in a way that deserves a reward, but we believe it's worth at minimum a conversation, and we think that these changes are not so significant to really disrupt the essential compromise that was struck, which is do not make a nightclub. Number two, on your question about noise concerns, you raised something that I forgot to mention. I just want to make sure the rest of the committee understands this very clearly. We would not be putting in any new sound system, not a new bass, not a new speaker, not a new anything. The DJ that we're talking about would be plugged in to the existing sound system that the existing restaurant has, that is subject to the existing limitations on noise volume that the existing restaurant has. So the concern about noise, I think, people think DJ, they think loud, but again, we already are allowed to have a sound system, recorded background music only. We've operated that in a complaint-free environment for 15 months. And by the only thing that we would be changing is not how loud we can turn it up, but how actively the next song is being selected. There is a aesthetic that is desirable with New York restaurants these days, that instead of just the old days where music was piped through on a CD or an iPod or Spotify or whatever as things have come by, to have a person who is standing there actively selecting the next song. And that's all we would be having by the DJ. So I think the noise concern is really addressed. And the last piece on that, in answer to your question, Andrea, and I just want to emphasize this, you mentioned events in the cellar. I mean, the cellar is a windowless basement, and part of the construction that we did here was to follow the recommendations of our sound study, to our acoustician, to build it in such a way that sound doesn't readily escape up to the upper floor and then out into the street. And so, that's a unique feature of this restaurant that I think is valuable. And we've proven ourselves already operating, with this sound system, and we think, we can continue to do so, and we've demonstrated that we can.
Thank you, Max, and thank you, Andrew, for the intro. I think that transitions us well into questions from the committee. So we'll have questions before we turn to the public, so keep that in mind. But yeah, raise your hand if you have any questions before we go to the public. Yeah,
This is new to me. What is the size of the space? Do we know?
Total square footage? Can
Yeah.
Alberto or Brice answer that question? What's the total square footage of the place? If you know.
9,000.
You know,
Yeah, the upstairs will have about 4,000 square foot, and the cellar level is 1,000 square foot.
complete restaurant, of that square footage, no dance floor, no, it's a restaurant setting.
And the 4,000 square foot includes maybe 1,500 of the kitchen space. So really where the seating area is about 2,000 square foot, I would say.
Gotcha.
Got it, thank you.
And can you just clarify too, on the square footage, we have the old affidavit before us and it lists a total of 9,911 square feet.
Say it again. What's the number? I didn't hear you.
It says 9,911 square feet. So just wanted to clarify, it seems like there's a discrepancy with what you just described, but I just wanted to sort of clarify that.
So I would say 6,000 square foot is the basement area. So we have the block from 17th Street to 18th Street. The entire
Okay.
basement is office space, is storage, fridges, walk-in coolers, and working area for the staff.
Yeah, so I just want to be clear about what Brice just said, so there's no confusion. There's the upstairs, which is the ground floor. That's front of house, open for customers. There's a stairway that goes downstairs to what we've been calling the cellar, and that is also front of house for customers. That's what much of the discussion tonight is about. And then to Brice's point, there is back of house, which is what you just heard him say: kitchen, office space, locker rooms for employees, etc.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
I just wanted to add one. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to add one more point on the sound. You asked about the sound. I mean, not that this should be the only thing that matters, but just to demonstrate the commitment. Their investment on the sound suppression system alone was $300,000. They invested significant capital into ensuring that their sound suppression system would be done in accordance with their acoustician's recommendations, so that there would not be the types of noise concerns that we heard about from day one. When we came before you in 2022.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? I think Catherine.
Good evening. So I would like you to clarify about some of the comments that I've read have indicated the feeling that the sentiment that this is supposed to be a restaurant, not a nightclub. And both the live DJ issue as well as neighbors. So we're talking about Union Square West, where there are residents and people are saying that in the back they can hear echoes. I don't know if vibrations have been an issue. I know all in all, it seems like you haven't had many 311 complaints, but again, I'd like to reiterate, good neighbors are the people who live within 500 feet of this location. This is where we want to know about sounds. And you said you have sound studies, and I like this idea of an ambient, the ambient noise concept, the ambient sound concept. But do you have some sense of, I hate to ask, decibels, how loud are we talking? And just realize, what we understand is that the later the night goes, the quieter the neighborhood is, and even the softest sounds are louder. So it's always that dilemma that needs to be addressed. So if you could just comment on some of those aspects.
Sure, I'd be happy to, and thanks for the questions. And I've taken notes on what you said, and if I missed any of your things you wanted me to answer, please let me know, because there were a few things. And so first, yes, I agree that the sentiment from the group who has been opposing our application has basically been, this is supposed to be a restaurant and not a nightclub. And our response has basically been in various ways, whether it was in 2022 or whether it was over the summer or whether it's here tonight, is that we think it's really unfair. It's unfair to call us a nightclub because we're not a nightclub. I understand that's a label that they've been using, and we wish they would stop, because we don't think that's, if you look at the actual stipulations that we have and even the stipulations that we're proposing, that's really not in line with what a nightclub is. We are not having DJs. We are not having, live dancing DJs. We're not having patron dancing. We're not having live music. We're not having red velvet ropes, not having bouncers. There's no dance floor. We're not having, nightclub promoters. Frankly, if you look at Brice's history here, Brice, the founder, it's been a food focused concept from day one. His first two places were food stalls. His second place was on the Upper East Side. His first real restaurant was on the Upper East Side, hardly a nightlife destination. And with this location, if he wanted to open a nightclub, he would have done it in Bushwick or East Williamsburg, which is where all the real nightclubs are opening these days. So that's number one. It's just, we agree that if there was a real nightclub opening here, that would be cause for concern. It never was, and we won't ever be. Number two is, on the concept of sort of noise and vibrations and things like that. I mean, I think one thing, there's a few things that I think we have going for us. Number one is at the summer feedback session, the person who lives directly above us came and was largely complimentary of our operation. Now, I don't speak for her. I don't know if she's here tonight, but Andrea was there, and she was not nearly as assertive in opposing this proposal than some of the other folks who I think you'll hear from tonight were. And I think, if you can't take it from your direct neighbor, who can you take it from? I mean, they're sort of, they know you best. So I think that's helpful. And then the last thing, I think this is the last thing that you raised in terms of just, it gets quieter later at night. Look, I get that. And we thought that we earned enough trust to be able to get the 2 a.m. that we originally asked for. It was clear from the summer feedback session and from conversations with Andrea that that's really not on the table. So we've withdrawn a large portion of that request on most of the weeknight, from Sunday to Wednesday. We're still at midnight with no change. We're really only asking for 1 hour later. And the reason why, by the way, that we're asking for the hour later is just because this is a nice restaurant. And I've dined there before. This is not a McDonald's. People don't just, come and eat for 30 minutes and leave. It's a nice restaurant. People enjoy a nice meal. We need to be able, we would like the ability to be open till 1, not so that we could seat people at 12:30 or something, so that people who come at, 11 or 10:30, we don't have to be kicking them out the door.
Thank you, Max. And we're going to move to public comment soon, but just if there are any last questions, I just want to give the public a chance to make comments, but Jaleb, take your last question.
Yeah, what time is your current last seating, and what time do you expect your last seating to be for the 1 a.m. closure?
Brees, why don't you address that?
Right now, our last reservation, we take it like 10:30, 10:45, we take the last reservations. And so it gives us only 1 hour, 15 minutes to serve them. And we have a lot of people coming after theater on the weekends. A lot of requests about, coming to dine later. They want reservation at 11, 11:30, especially Fridays and Saturdays.
Thank you.
Perfect. Todd. And Todd, we'll take one last question here.
Yeah, guys. So obviously we're going to hear from the residents in your neighborhood shortly, but in the 2 years or 3 years since the committee considered your event and during your negotiations with our committee member, what sort of what has the feedback been thus far? Has there been a lot of pushback or give and take? I mean, it seems like hearing what you say, Max, there has been a lot of compromise on your part, but what do you hear from your neighbors based on the last 2 years, and what's your perception of it before we hear from them directly?
Sure, I'm happy to answer that, Todd. Thanks for the question. So look, I've been involved with a significant number of these types of negotiations over the last 10 years of my legal career, where this is the only thing that I do is liquor licensing. Oftentimes, the give and take is not just between the community board and the applicant, but the community board, the applicant, and the group of neighbors who have organized to express concerns. I respect the people who are in opposition tonight. I do not wish to minimize them. I think what they are saying is in good faith. But with that said, I just being completely transparent, I am disappointed that basically there's a through line from 2022 to this summer to now, where basically the approach to us has been just a hard no. The affidavit that we've currently agreed to, that was an affidavit between us and you. the SLAP committee and CB5. At the 2022 meeting, even based on those compromises, which were done in reaction to the concerns, the legitimate concerns that the residential group raised, they were still pushing at the SLAP meeting for you to just deny us outright. At the community feedback session over the summer, much of the refrain was to deny this request outright. And although I'm always an optimist, I suspect that's what you're going to be hearing in just a moment as well. We think that that what Andrea has put in front of you with negotiation with us, we feel we are doing our part. We feel like we've operated a good restaurant. We've complied with the letter and the spirit of our stipulations, and we think we earned an opportunity to have a little bit of extra leeway. And we think all that has been done with the concerns that the residents have raised in mind. Just last thing on this, Todd, and again, this is not to minimize the residents who are appearing tonight at all, but one really important thing to recall here is that you have a lot of residents in your community district, and you have a lot of residents on this block, and we serve a lot of local guests. There are there's a sort of common dynamic in community board meetings where there is a mismatch between the number of people who show up to community board meetings to oppose something versus the number of people who come to tell you nice things. It's just, and just because you may not hear tonight a number of people who are here to say that they live on this block and they've dined with us and they've not dined with us and they have no problem with us, just because you may not be hearing that tonight doesn't mean that doesn't exist. We did a survey of 311 calls in the last 15 months. There's only one 311 call associated with this business in over 15 months. And it was a complaint that the police said didn't have merit. So we think that ought to count for something.
Thank you, Max. And Kevin, do you mind if we hold until, because we'll have business session after.
Sure.
Because we can go back afterwards. Thank you. Okay, so with that, we will go to public comment.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Was there a community meeting attempted before the hearing?
Yeah.
There was a meeting, yes.
And what came out of that?
Well, you're asking me, these stipulations came out of it. I mean,
No, I'm asking Andrea, what was her perception of the community meeting?
Todd, if you wouldn't mind, we may hold, I think we can hold that for our business session, if you don't mind. I just like to get the residents.
I'm standing down.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you. We'll discuss the stipulations in just a minute. We have that in front of us. Okay, perfect. So for the public, if you have a comment on Mission Ceviche, now is your moment. I will make a couple asks just in advance of that. First, we ask that you be thoughtful about your comment and try to avoid repeating what others have said. It's very helpful to us if you simply say you agree with comments that another person has made, just so we get a sense of how many people have a certain opinion. But we do want to make sure we have enough time to get to everyone. And second, we will limit the time for each speaker to 2 minutes, and that again is just to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak. So I'm going to put a timer up on the screen, and we do ask that you wrap up your comments in advance of that timer running out here. So first up, we'll have Hope. Please go ahead and make your comment. Hope, can you hear?
I think she's muted.
Hope, I think you're still muted. If you could go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh yeah, I am muted, but what I'm saying is I had all these notes up on my computer that I wanted to work from, and all of a sudden this got to be very big. So I'm going to try to, I don't know how to get back to what I needed here. Hold on a second.
Gotcha. I think Alt Tab should get you back.
Okay, here we go. So basically, I just want to first of all say that we do not oppose businesses on this block. We are really about having a good quality of life for the residents and welcoming businesses that respect our agreements. And so there's no sort of animosity towards Mission Ceviche per se. And I also want to thank CB5 and all the help we've gotten so far. So saying that, I would like to say that and when I say we, I'm really speaking for myself, but also the neighborhood, because we wrote a letter to CB5 that had 62 signatures, and we have a history of being in opposition to the proposed affidavit, because in 2023, the Mission Ceviche back then was asking for the very agreement they're asking for now, and it was denied. And so it's true that a couple of revisions have been made, but we really have a history with Mission Ceviche of opposing the proposed affidavit. And now I see there's some revisions made. That's good to see. But basically, my real concern here is that there is a change in precedent. If we were going to allow this affidavit to go forward and be accepted, and that really, really concerns me. So I'm going to just say what that is: a change in precedent to our quality of life, because to allow Mission Ceviche to alter the original stipulations which were agreed to in writing in 2023. If the changes in this new affidavit were granted, we are back to square zero. And we really believed back then that our hard-won negotiations would protect the livability in our neighborhood in perpetuity.
Hope, if you could, thank you so much. If you could go ahead and wrap up, that would be very helpful.
No, I can't. I have a few things to say. Max Bookman got to speak for a long time. I really need to say what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Hope, we'll give you
let me just try to get through it, okay? So it's a change of I mean, that's just, I feel that's really disrespectful. I have a few things to say here, okay? So there's also a new precedent altogether to the very process of negotiating stipulations involving a community board and operator in the community. If this affidavit were to be adopted, it sets a precedent for that process being watered down and co-opted. Number two, in terms of change in precedent.
Policy here that it's 2 minutes for public opinion. Please, we need to move on to the next person, please. Thank you.
Jesus Christ.
Let's go ahead. Thank you very much, Hope. We'll shift to the next person.
Well, excuse me. Really, I just want to say, can you still hear me? The change in precedent is.
Sorry, we do want to limit to 2 minutes just to make sure we can get to everyone. We did definitely hear your concern regarding the change in precedent, and we've gotten a lot of written comments as well, so we appreciate your input. Next up, we'll have Dylan. If you could if you could unmute yourself and make your comment.
Hi, I wanted to thank Hope for her comments. I wanted to rebut what Mr. Bookman had said. I filed a 311 complaint for a Saturday buyout of the restaurant. I sent Josh at CB5 a video of what happened, which was people gathering outside making noise. I have lived on the opposite side of the street, across the parking lot, and have experienced sidewalk noise from people leaving the restaurant. That is my major concern. I have not experienced sound from the DJ. So my personal great concern is the hours of operation should not be extended. I would like to add that I'm in contact with many other members of the community, including the people who live upstairs from you, who were not entirely complimentary. I think that they were referring to the food. And I feel somewhat strongly that the community's response to the restaurant has been miscategorized by Mr. Bookman. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dylan. All right, next up, we have Matt Cohen. If you could unmute yourself and you go ahead and make your comment.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
So I have a few questions as it relates to the outside. Is this a sidewalk setup as well as a shed? And I'd like to better understand the size of how many people will be sitting out on the sidewalk and on the shed. I'd like to also indicate that there can't be any speakers outside. There are multiple restaurants that are opening that are putting speakers outside. And I know that might not be part of the stipulations, or it is, and it's understood, but once the speakers are up, it's almost impossible to get them removed. Montauk at 928 Broadway just opened and has speakers outside. Kokadu at 12 East 22nd Street has speakers, and it's been brought to CB5's attention, but it's an issue and still hasn't been resolved. With that, 2 is, sorry, 3 is, does CB5 get to review the design of the shed, or is that just up to something else? 4, new possible rules allow sheds to be open till midnight. So is that something we have control over in these stipulations when giving them the right to be outside? And can we restrict alcohol use outside? I think depending upon the size, if you have 25, 30 people drinking until midnight, 11 o'clock, the sheer noise of all of the people out onto the sidewalk shed could be a concern. And last is the opening of the door. If you're having DJ and music inside and the door is propped open, the music from the outside or the music from the inside quickly comes to the outside, and there's no enforcement of closing these doors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. And I'll quickly address a couple of those. First, the sidewalk shed, the applicant has actually withdrawn their request for the outdoor cafe, so that will not be a concern. I think I can speak for the applicant, saying that there won't be a speaker outside.
That's correct.
Nothing.
No speaker, no outdoor dining.
Perfect. And then the last piece I can let Max quickly speak to is opening of the door. I assume that's something that would not happen, but we could maybe put that in the stipulations as well.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Max. All right. Next up, we'll have Harold Wood. Please unmute yourself and make your comment. Hi, Harold. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'd like to say, first of all, I'll take just a second to say I agree with Hope Martin. I think the attorney here basically said that what they're asking for is not an entitlement. And yet what I believe is going to happen is he's saying we're going to have it. And once other people come in, they're going to look and say, hey, if they got it, I'm entitled to it. So if what you're doing now is creating an entitlement for other people. And otherwise, you're going to have to be a referee to say, well, this nuance is different than that nuance is. And it's going to be a never-ending community board meetings of people coming back and forth to undo the things that they've agreed to do. And I think you have an original agreement. You should stick with that original agreement. Setting a precedent for changing that is a precedent that will not be bad for the block, will not be good for the block or for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold. Next up, we'll have Pamela Joyner. Please unmute yourself and make your comment. Pamela, please let us know. All right, Pamela, it looks like you're unmuted, but we can't hear you right now. All right, Pamela, we're gonna go to Jeff, but we will come back to you to try to get your comment in just a minute. So Jeff Waddle, please unmute yourself and make your comment.
Yes, hi. Yeah, I'd like to say I agree with all the prior speakers, so I won't repeat what they said. I did want to address a little bit more, particularly the DJ. I think all of us have been to restaurants and other places with DJs, and I don't think there's any quiet DJs out there. The fact they're using the same equipment doesn't necessarily mean that, I don't know that they're playing it on max now. I suspect the DJ would. And the fact that it's really 8 times a month kind of underlines as sort of an event that is going to draw attention and probably promote that type of activity. So that's the main thing. I mean, the other thing I wanted to mention, I think that there was a lot of compromise the first time around, and I wouldn't agree with the characterization that everybody's just saying no. We have a lot of restaurants on this block. I don't think anybody's ever tried to stop a restaurant from opening. And also, I don't think any of us look forward to the other, I don't know if there's 12 other restaurants coming back every 2 years trying to renegotiate all their stipulations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. All right, Pamela, we're gonna try to come back to you. Please go ahead and unmute yourself, if you're able, and make your comment. Hi, Pamela. Unfortunately, we can't hear you still, so we'll move forward, but we may be able to come get your comment later in the meeting. Or please feel free to email CB5, the office email. We can try to take your comment that way. All right. So with that, we will come back and get into business sessions. So during business session, no.
Oh, we don't get a chance to. We don't get a chance to respond.
Hi. Yeah, sorry about that. Yes.
Wendy Davidson.
Yes,
I live
Wendy.
in 11 East 17th Street, 6th floor. I have some questions. I've worked in, entertainment for my entire career.
Yes.
Will dinners be being served in the basement? What's happening in the basement? In my looking at their menu, it's very expensive to have dinner there. So is the basement going to be a bar for drinking? What is going to be going on in the basement? That's my question.
Thank you, and apologies for not that following you. Max, I'll let you go ahead and answer that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Seth. Maybe I thought I get a quick chance to respond to what's been said. Is that?
Yes, this is actually, we just got one last question. Were you able to
Yeah.
hear it?
No. Yeah, I
Okay,
did. There was just yes, I was able to hear it. There was just.
Yeah, if you answer that one and then feel free to, you can respond. Quickly.
Sure. Okay. Yes. So yes, it is dinner in the basement. It is the basement is an extension of the restaurant, and it is going to be dinner served in the basement. The comment was also that it's expensive. I just want to point something out about this. And this addresses some of the other points that you just heard. We were told, we heard during the feedback session over the summer that basically this is not a business that caters to the neighborhood. Because of that, we surveyed our guests over the last 2 months. 80% of the people who responded to our survey reside in the CB5 community district. We've served 72,000 people since we opened. Significant portion is people who live in the neighborhood. And so we are a neighborhood restaurant. Just very quickly, I appreciate all the time you've given us so far. Just a few quick other points in response to Hope's comments. She says the revisions are good to see. I'm glad to hear she's saying that. But a few people focused in on this change of precedent issue again. I just want to be extremely clear about this. There is a process that the state liquor authority has, that the community board is a part of, called a change of method of operation. That is the application that's before you. That process is literally designed to allow businesses to seek to change their method of operation, their stipulations. This community board routinely processes those applications. There is nothing unusual about this, and the notion that when you agree to a stipulation that it's set in stone for all of time is just not correct. Matt, just to respond very quickly to Dylan Cohen's point, he said he made a 311 complaint. Well, maybe he was the one. I said that there was one, but we directly reviewed these complaints. Concern about hours of operation, as we said, we've pared that back. So I'm sure he's be happy to hear that. We're not seeking the 2 a.m. anymore. We're basically keeping it the same for most of the night. I think that's a good compromise. I just want to be clear about something Matt Cohen said, because we've said it many times. I just want to make sure it's getting through. There is no outdoor dining. There hasn't been. We asked for it. There was a lot of opposition to it. We heard that. We've taken it out. There is no outdoor dining, no speakers on the sidewalk. Our operation is a shoebox that is enclosed. There is no outdoor anything. And then just finally, in response to Jeff's point about the sound equipment and the compromise the first time around, I just want to reiterate on the sound equipment. It is the same sound equipment. It was good enough in 2022. It's still good enough now. We're not going to be any louder than what you've already permitted us to be, and that's really important. And I just want to underscore, Jeff said something to the effect that not everybody was opposed in 2022. The way this SLAP committee was conducted in 2022 was Nick Athanol read the proposed affidavit, the one that we've currently agreed to. The neighbors got to speak. Not a single neighbor, who are some of the same folks you're hearing tonight, not a single neighbor said after hearing that affidavit they're pleased and are now withdrawing their opposition. We think we've done our part here. We think the community board has done its part here. We're grateful for that. We think we've established a track record of compliance. We think this proposal is modest, and we really do hope that you'd entertain approving it. And we thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Max. All right, so with that, we will go into business session. As I said before, no additional comment at this point from the applicant or the public is appropriate unless we request it. So we can ask questions if we want, but other than that, we're just trying to get to a resolution at the end here on what the actual stipulations should be. So with that, I will hand it back to the committee. I want to see if there are any comments and what thoughts are about the stipulations that you have before you. I guess just to kick it off, to remind everyone that the compromises we made so far are to move the hours from the original request of 2 a.m. every night back to midnight during the week, so it's Sunday through Wednesday. Is it 2 a.m. now? Is it midnight? It was the request was midnight. Yes. Oh, sorry. So I'll clarify that. So it's midnight in its current operations. The request was originally 2 a.m. every night, but Andrea was able to negotiate with Max. So now the request as it stands is midnight during the week and 1 a.m. Thursday through Saturday. So that's one compromise. Another was that we limit the number of live DJ events only Thursday through Saturday, not to exceed 8 nights a month. And then we also have other compromises here, but those are the main two. We can talk about the others here. So that I'll pass it back to the committee.
Seth, and that would be the live DJ events would be limited to 8 per month. Okay,
Exactly.
and is the DJ in the basement only?
No.
I think, Max, can you address that? If the DJ is going to be limited in the basement or will be on the main floor?
Yeah, Max, if you're able to address that, that'd be great.
I don't want to say the wrong thing. I think I know the answer, but give me one moment because my client is texting me the answer. Basement only. Basement only.
Basement only.
Basement only, right? Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Any other comments to kick us off?
Question.
Yeah.
Max, I wonder if you might be able to please explain the difference between your operation at Mission Ceviche and Lily's Pub.
Well, would Reese or Alberto, who's there in the neighborhood, want to describe how you're different than Lily's, which I know there's been a lot of complaints about?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time and the effort that you put to hear every one of us. The difference between Lily's and us, this is a full restaurant. We are serving the best Peruvian food in the city. Our offering is high quality food. Yes, we serve wines and cocktails to our clients, but our dream is to get a Michelin star. So this is a fine dining place. Happens that we have a lot of requests for some of our clients and visitors sometimes that are going to the theater and they want to dine after, and we have to reject them because we cannot serve them after midnight. This is the spirit of all this. So the basement, because it's windowless and it's I don't know you, I have to confess something here. When I go to a restaurant and they send me to the basement, I don't like it because they send me to like maybe not the nicest table. So we want to give them a little experience, like have a little music and maybe some nice decor and all that. So they accept the to be seated on the basement. That's it.
And the only other thing I'd add to that is that, just as a reminder, I know it's been said a few times. I mean, this business started as a food stall, which means it's been food focused from day one. I mean, the food, obviously we need a liquor license, but the food has always been the focus. And I think that you may find that to be different than some of the other venues you may have in mind.
And by all means, please visit
I
us.
just,
We will love to have you here. All of you.
Thank you so much. Max, if you could just answer this as a yes or no, does Lily serve alcohol?
Am I being cross-examined here? I can only say yes or no.
Well, I'm just asking, because if I can understand.
I'm sure they do. I mean, I'm sure they do.
I have a letter from the neighbors. I'm trying to make it heads or tails of what is being said in the letter. So if they serve alcohol and they serve food, irrespective of whether their food is the same as your food, different from your food, if they have food, then you're basically the same kind of operation because you're not a nightclub. So I would interpret what I've read as treat them the same. That's how I would interpret.
Yeah, okay, sure, I could respond to that. So this is New York City, the home of Restaurant Row, the home of the most diverse cuisine in the United States. Oh, I thought that was a question for me. He had a question for me, right?
I think it's just whether there's alcohol, and there is. So I'll just hold.
Yeah, maybe that's why it was a yes or no. There's leagues of difference between what we are and other restaurants. No one serves Peruvian food the way they do.
Definitely understood. Yeah, thank you very much, Max. All right, we'll go to Todd next. I have a question.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so just trying to be the old hand here, and I was a participant in the 2022 hearing when Nick was still among us. What Max says about the process, which is that it is in fact true. Any applicant is allowed to come back at a future meeting and ask for an amendment to their license, right? So two things can be true. Our board does take seriously the precedential effect of what it decides to do, but it's also true that we encourage our applicants on good behavior and adherence to their stipulations if they feel that they need a change in their method of operations for whatever reason to come back and plead their case. The other thing I would say, and this is why I'm sorry, Seth, I brought this up earlier. We also encourage both the applicants and residents to do their best to compromise and work together upon each new iteration that comes before the committee. So I would just like to know, with regard to just me personally, as one of the committee members in making a decision, I want to know whether or not in the community meeting there was a good faith effort on both sides to try to reach agreement on this, because looking at this objectively, the kind of compromises that were made by the applicant in limiting their hours and foregoing the outdoor cafe, are reasonable, but not necessarily conclusive. So was there any effort in the community meeting to compromise on the other side that should be brought to our attention as we consider this?
Thank you, Todd. No, I'll pass that back to Andrea, actually, if you're able to make a comment based on what you saw. Yeah, just whether there was just sort of efforts on both sides to compromise and
Okay. So on the stipulation we have, we went through the hours of operations and then, reducing the extended hours to, Thursday through Saturday. And the live DJ events, the applicants agreed to limit the DJ event to a maximum 8 nights per month and only do Thursday and Saturday.
And were those,
And yeah,
just to ask too, as you're going, were those modifications sort of suggested by the community, or is that something that was just you should have come up with?
There was a conversation on going back and forth on how many nights, but we end up sitting at 8, which is, the applicant feels comfortable of, agreeing to.
Gotcha.
And so there is a conversation on that. And then as for the private events, we also had a little bit of negotiation on concluding the private events to no later than 11 p.m. So there was also a conversation on that instead of posing the events at their regular hours. And yeah, I think that's it. But Max, if there's anything you would like to add,
Sure. Yeah, we also eliminated the sidewalk cafe in response to the concerns that were being raised. So that was another one as well.
Okay, well, that answers my question. So, in our discussion among ourselves, I wonder if in trying to bridge the gap, there's any area of compromise that could be reached at this late stage, at this hearing, that both sides could agree to. It may not be possible, but I'll leave that to the chair to make those efforts and discern that.
Thank you, Todd. I think next we have Lev here.
Gene Birthday. So, Max, here's a question. So we have in front of us is basically a modification where you get an extra 1 hour Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and you get to have a DJ twice a week, like 8 times a month, about twice a week, right? What are your thoughts if we were to approve it? What are your thoughts on if we approved it conditionally for a certain period of time, providing that there's no additional 311 calls and no further complaints from the neighborhood, and we give it a trial period?
I can think about this a bit, but I don't think that we're able to do that. I think we have to make.
Yeah. So were you asking me? Yeah. So I think. I think it's a great outside the box idea, and it's something that in principle, I would be interested in discussing, but it's not compliant with the liquor authority's rules. Unfortunately, the way that the liquor authority process works is that it's sort of, they don't have that type of like flexibility. It's whatever we agree to, we send up to the liquor authority, and that's what they put into the liquor license. And we think the trial period has been the last 15 months.
Yeah, so it's an attachment essentially to the license.
When does the current license?
The affidavit. I'm not certain.
Max, when does the current license expire?
They expire every 2 years, but renewing it is a pretty straightforward process. Renewing a liquor license is not a vehicle that the liquor authority accepts for changing stipulations.
Thank you, Max. Samir.
Yeah, just to go off of what Todd said, I was also on the board during the first go around for Mission Ceviche. And I do remember part of the reason that we approved it in the first place was frankly a lack of interest from the community members, the residents, to compromise. And I feel like we're seeing that again. I do feel like the operator is making quite a few concessions compared to their original ask in 2022 or whenever that was, and then also their more recent ask this summer. And so I'm more inclined to approve these changes. If people don't feel comfortable, I'm happy to go with whatever, but I'm definitely leaning towards approving the changes just because I do feel like they are willing to compromise and they're just being met with a little bit of opposition that's not as willing to compromise.
Gotcha. Thank you, Samir. So I think what I'm hearing is that people are fairly comfortable with at least some of the provisions. It seems like we feel like there's been a good faith effort to compromise. What I should mention is that besides the people online tonight, we got a letter firmly opposing any modifications to the method of operation signed by, I believe it was 62 people. So it is a lot, sort of like a groundswell of people opposing it, so we should consider that. It doesn't necessarily, those comments don't necessarily take into account the compromises that were made, so maybe it satisfies some people, but maybe not others. So I'd like to get a sense from people, whether you're comfortable, as Samir is, with the stipulations as they're listed out here, or if there are any that you're less comfortable with, particularly hours or the live DJ events, because people mentioned people coming out of the restaurant is a particular concern, and I think the DJ events could be, you know, contributing to that. There could be the hours contributing to that, like the 1 a.m. push. So yeah, just curious for comments on that.
I just have, am I able to ask one last question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I know you mentioned the DJ's only gonna be in the cellar in the new speakeasy space that's open. Is that a change? Was it before on the first floor when we're getting a lot of these noise complaints and now it's moving? I just wanna make sure I'm clear.
No, there's the current liquor license is no DJ at all. And there haven't been noise complaints about us, but there's been no DJ. What we're asking for is the DJ plugged into our existing sound system without dancing or anything like that. No dance floor, plugged into the existing sound system in the cellar, which is a box with no windows. That was where we spent a significant money to make acoustically, secure.
So Max, one last question.
One sec, David's first, and then we'll go to you next. David?
Oh, you talking?
Yeah.
Hi. Thanks. I live a block away on 16th Street. I'm on the west side of Fifth Avenue. I've been a neighbor in Union Square for about 15 years now. I am encouraged by businesses wanting to stay open later. I'm encouraged by sidewalk cafes. I think that creates a more vibrant community. I think that it's safer at night. I've been aware of Mission Ceviche from their first location as a fine dining restaurant, and I'm supportive of them in the Union Square neighborhood. While I understand there's public concern about noise on 17th Street, it doesn't seem to me, and please tell me if I'm wrong, if I missed something here, that there hasn't been noise complaints from Mission Ceviche. The materials that I've looked online for the requests from folks basically talk to the fact that people are just generally upset with more businesses open on 17th Street. I think that the affidavit that's been negotiated is honestly far too restrictive. I would like to see them have much more flexibility in what they can do and can operate, and the options that folks have who live in the neighborhood here can have. And so I'm fully supportive of this affidavit, and I would like to see a sidewalk cafe here. I would like more options for dining outside when the weather is nice. And so I'm the issues that we have in this committee is that we usually get some folks who are very, we only hear sort of one side of the story, and I see this as a good change to the neighborhood. And listen, if a year from now or 12 or 6 months from now we have 311 complaints through the wazoo and there's all kinds of issues, we have mechanisms to pull back hours, or we have mechanisms to change that. But I haven't seen any issues here for us to have a problem with this seemingly minor change. So I'm supportive of this affidavit. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And next we'll go to Gene.
So, Max, if the DJ is in the basement, would that raise the decibel level from what it currently is?
No, and the answer is because it's the same sound system. So we currently, right now, under our existing stipulations, have the right to play music out of the sound system to a certain level. Part of our deal was we had a sound study done. We made suggestions. There's a limit. You can't turn it up past a certain, you can't turn it to 11. So that all stays the same. So the point I've been trying to make here is that whether it's on Spotify where the music is playing in the basement, or it's coming from an individual who is actively selecting the next song, doesn't impact how loud the music is. it's the same decibel level that we have agreed to.
Thank you, Max. And we are, just to let everyone know, we do want to start to move toward a resolution. It's 7:20, so we just want to make sure we move toward a resolution here as we make our next questions.
I'll be quick.
Yeah.
So I want to applaud Andrea. This is not an easy assignment, and the community and the applicant. I do see the progress here, and some of the work I believe is also related to not only framing, but letting people know. I think a lot of the initial concern was about the sidewalk, and they removed that. And so, and this is a neighbor that does not seem to be penny wise and pound foolish. If there are issues, it would seem to me that they would be addressable. The applicant also has a Acoustalog sound testing, made that extra effort early on to allow for music. But again, I think the neighbors need to know that they can reach out to the establishment, this office, 311, if they're hearing noise that may not be in the building. You know, that's the thing about sound. You could live in the premises and not hear the noise, but you could be in the back, or so we're not trying to hinder anyone who's having some discomfort from bringing that forward. But I think that there has been a real effort to strike a balance between the neighbors and the business, as well as to look at what's suitable for this space. And so I would be willing to move it forward, knowing that the applicant knows how SLAP operates and that there's remedies for situations.
Well said, Catherine. Yeah, and it's just to emphasize to the residents listening, you can always email the CB5 office, and we have ways to contact the applicants so that we can do that. Next up though was we had Todd. I know you had your hand up at some point. Do you still have a comment to make?
Yes, I was just gonna mention the issue of the sound study, and I think Max addressed it. My only question was, when you did the original study, is there anything about the nature of having a disc jockey? You know, sound studies are only as good as the kind of music that is tested on them. Is there anything about the nature of having a disc jockey and the type of music or records that they may be shuffling that might require a follow-up or an additional sound study, or is that something that might satisfy the residents on that issue?
Oh, sorry, was that a question to me, Todd?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't believe the addition of a disc jockey, as long as we're plugging it into the existing sound system, makes any differences in the recommendations that Al Feierstein made. Now, Al Feierstein is the great sound technician who is respected by all applicants and community boards alike for being a straight shooter and telling people how it is. The recommendations that he made to us were all about the type of sound system, the type of soundproofing that we should install. I just can't see of a way why any of those recommendations would be changed when the input method that's going into the sound system is a live person picking the next song versus putting it on Spotify or iPod or whatever.
Thank you both. So I think we're moving toward sort of an alignment here. I think it sounds like they're comfortable with stipulations as they are, but please raise your hand if you don't agree with any of the stipulations as written. I just want to make sure we hear everybody's voice on that. Okay, with that, I think we're ready to make a motion. Yeah, sorry.
I move to approve subject, or I guess deny unless, right? Unless they sign an affidavit saying they commit to the stipulations as agreed to in this document.
Gotcha.
Seconded.
All right. Thank you, everybody. With that, we can take it to a vote. And last question. Yeah.
Yeah, can I just make a statement before we vote? Because I'm gonna vote for this, and I think it's the right thing to do, and Andrea, you did a great job. It's a difficult task, but I just want to note that 3 of the concerns that the 62 neighbors things, it's hard to ignore the concerns of 62 neighbors. That's a real issue. We're a community, so we should be listening to that. But the thing that struck me was 3 of these issues are related to noise and music and the DJ. And one of the things that they keep bringing up is from the website of the operator, when the party's large, we say, let's go larger and celebrate louder. Perhaps you would want to change that on your website, because it's conveying the wrong thing, because a lot of this is mentioned 3 times.
That's a fair point.
And Max, to your comment at the beginning of the session, you said, typically at these things, you kind of hear from people more often who are against than for, because people who are for are satisfied and they're living their lives and they're not coming to a community meeting. Totally get that. I have many restaurants that I go to that I love. I look forward to one day coming to yours. But I think if you have a lot of neighbors who love your restaurant and I agree with you, at the board meeting on Thursday, bring some. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll take it to a vote. Sorry, we're just gonna take it to a vote. I just want to make sure we can move it to the next item here. We have some folks waiting. Yeah, go ahead.
Seth,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Samir,
Yes.
Andrea.
Just give me a minute. Yeah.
Sure. Gabby.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
See you later.
Todd,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
me, I'm a yes. Zona
Yes.
and Lev.
Yes.
Okay. 13 yeas. Oh, sorry, Andrea.
I'm going to vote for yes too.
Okay, so that's 14 passes unanimously.
Thank you,
All right,
everyone, for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Max. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and thank
All
you,
right.
Andrea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please visit us. It will be an honor to have all of you.
Thank you. All right, with that, we will go to our second item. We'll try to make these next two more quick. First, I'll just give a quick introduction and then we'll hand it over to Mar, who is very kindly here with us. But this is the Cannabis Showcase Event Regulations. So they were posted to the state register, and now we have the opportunity now to comment on them until November 24th. So we have to do it this meeting, essentially. The proposed regulations follow legislation signed by Governor Kathy Hochul to allow sales of cannabis products at certain events such as farmers markets and pop-up locations. Our goal here today is to decide first whether we want to comment on the regulations. We don't actually have to, but it seems like something that we should comment on. And then if we do decide to comment, decide here today at a high level what the content of those comments will be, and then we'll decide on, we can have one of the members actually write out the detailed comment that we'll make. So just to give you additional background, Community Boards 2 and 4 are commenting on the regulations. Community Board 3 is not. So just food for thought. With that, I will hand it over to Maura Fitzgerald, who we have from CB2, who's an expert on cannabis legislation and has agreed to speak with us.
Thank you for the invite to talk about this really, really important topic. And I'm very happy to see my cannabis counterparts, Todd and Catherine here. We've worked together over the years. And so I'm really happy to be here. All right. Do you want me to I have a whole little thing, or we can jump right in? I'm gonna leave it to you guys.
Yeah, if you could, just give a high
Just
level,
like an
that would be
overview?
really helpful. And then if you wouldn't mind,
All right,
we'll probably have
so-
some questions afterwards.
In May, CCB approved an OCM resolution to send these proposed regulations for cannabis showcase events to the state register to the Department of State. They hit the register in September 60-day, which triggered the 60-day comment period, which we are currently in. That concludes at 11:59 p.m. on November 24th. So there is still time to comment. They are creating a legal pathway for New York State licensed cannabis retailers in partnership with cultivators and processors, at least one of each for each event, to apply for permits to temporarily sell cannabis in pop-up style showcase events beyond their licensed premises. There's a list of possible venues, but really anywhere. It's written in a way that says, oh, but it can't be here, but really all that can't be here are circumstantial. Like, because something else is happening here. These things can happen anywhere with the regs as written right now. They dictate how they operate, how long they can run, the partnership with growers and processors, and, they're 21 plus adult use retail events, or at least they're described as such in the regs. Gifting, sampling, consumption is technically prohibited. Again, another issue, because if it's happening in an open air location, it's illegal to smoke in an open air location. So, let's see, and frequency and location. What they do, and there's a municipal obligation as there is for retail. However, even though the MRTA, which is the law that created legalization, states that in the 5 boroughs, the community board is the body to which these cannabis retail has to apply, or at least give notice. It says municipality. And what we saw with the Cannabis Growers Showcases of 2023 is that community boards were completely removed from the process. And that City Hall decided to take the approval for these pop-ups, to themselves. So we were cut out of the process. We had no say where these things happened, when they happened, or anything, and they were happening on our doorsteps. That is the one thing that I really want to flag, and to put it into context. This is basically the outdoor dining of cannabis. That's what we're talking about here. These are, but even worse, in my personal opinion, this is a liquor license, a street activity license, a land use license, all rolled into one with zero municipal oversight, because we have no say. We look at these things can happen anywhere. So we have lots of empty storefronts. We hate those. We want robust retail and businesses in these vacant storefronts. However, cannabis, they pay more in rent. Not regular retail, mom and pop shops, independently owned retail cannot compete with the rents we call the cannabis tax, because landlords charge more. So are we taking retail opportunity from regular retail and from independently owned businesses? That's something that would, I'd like to flag. And I'd like to also flag that, these things, again, can happen anywhere. They can happen in parks. They can happen at our farmers markets. And the distance requirements are seemingly the same as regular retail, adult use retail AUs. But again, I don't know if you guys are up on the proximity issues that are going on right now. So 200 and 500 foot rules, they are now attempting to institute that same block road exclusive use provision back in, which has been, deemed illegal. But they are trying to institute it in these regs. And that means that there can be one of these things. Your kid's school is on 34th and 7th on the, northwest corner. This can happen at DSW, like right there. So these are all concerns. We have learned with the cannabis law, I know you all know that when something is unsaid in the regs, when it's left out, when it's left for speculation, not only does it adversely affect the communities in which these businesses are running, but it ends up being terrible for the operators themselves. So when dealing with the OCM and the CCD, community board too, rather than ask like, oh, did you consider this? Did you consider that? We like to tell, here's a suggestion of what this could look like and make it stronger so it serves all parties. That's what I got.
That was excellent. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I think we can move next. I think I want to take some time for questions. Now we have Mara to answer, who's an expert. So if anybody has questions after having heard that on the regulation, feel free to raise your hand. Yeah, Yoda.
Thank you, Mark. I just, are you sure that there, it's my understanding that liquor will not be allowed to be sold at these pop-ups? Is that?
So, yes, this is what it says. That liquor cannot be sold. But there are holes, because if it's an outdoor, for example, an outdoor location, their only obligation is to fence it off. I've seen this happen with simple stanchions and ropes for the cannabis grower showcases. So they can put up some ropes or a tent, make sure there's somebody standing there, you know, it's age gated, somebody's taking IDs, but this could happen theoretically in front of a liquor store or at a fair where there are lots of vendors with liquor licenses, as long as it's somewhat separated, but not really. Another thing is these can happen in, again, empty retail, right next to a bar or restaurant. Who's to stop them from partnering, even if it's unofficial, and creating a street party? And you can't tell people they can't smoke on the street because it's legal.
I have one more question, if I may. So where do you get that municipality does not include the community board?
Because it doesn't say community board. And in the law, it says municipalities, or in New York City, community boards. Because, and it's explicit each time.
Okay.
And we are left out here.
Well, so I would like to add to that we've gone through a lot of discussion and clarification that in the city of New York, the community board is authorized to speak as a municipality. And so I want to just add that the community board is the localized input. What the dynamic here is that this, cannabis is being regulated by the state. And so a lot of this is written from a county perspective, where the seat of the county is speaking. But I just want to add that part of it.
Yes, so we are theoretically, right, the municipal body to which notice must be given. But there's nothing about an obligation to appear. There's nothing about an obligation, whether something can open regardless of the municipal opinion or advisory opinion. And there are no stipulations. Community boards, they are not, and I know you still disagree with me on this, do you? OCM has been very clear, they are not taking stipulations from community boards. They're not.
But they are listening, so I don't want to.
They will not enforce.
They are listening, and so we have had some negative feedback, but we want to, I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's very helpful. Perfect. So it seems like we've heard so far, the big issues are community boards not having explicit input in the regulations as written. There's also potential issues about public consumption around, any of the locations where these pop-ups appear. There's gonna be difficulties potentially in like enforcing age restrictions, location, that can basically be run anywhere as the regulations are written. And then there's a piece about potentially, keeping out other establishments, given the higher rents paid. So those are the ones I'm hearing so far. Just want to see if anybody has any other questions.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not a question.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's okay. On it.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can do both.
unfortunately,
We can do both.
I'm definitely cognizant of the issues around community board notice, and I think that's
Yeah.
a fair thing to raise.
Yeah.
I'm not really swayed by the rest of it, to be honest. Like, as a state, our legislators have decided that smoking outdoors is fine, and I don't think this is the place to opine on that.
Okay.
And generally, I think I think we should have input. And I think that's where we should weigh in, but that's the only thing I feel comfortable commenting on.
Gotcha. So let me, we'll take let me divide it. So basically for comments, we'll leave that until later. And any more questions? But first I'll let Mara respond to that and then we'll have more questions.
So to what Catherine was saying, this bill, the bills that Hochul signed to make this law were from Hinchey, Michelle, and who else? The other one, it doesn't matter. They're both from upstate. They are both from upstate, and this is another issue with cannabis law, that it's written one size fits all, and they do not consider the unique concerns of the people of the 5 boroughs. So, and because it is a state law, it's not customized. If we want to customize anything to suit the city, to better suit the city, it has to happen through legislation.
I agree.
City,
Who's Henchy?
it's Michelle.
Is that a council or
Hinchey.
assembly?
She is Senate.
Senate.
And yeah, Michelle Hinchey, 41st Senate District, and the Assembly,
Pardo.
yeah, Lupardo.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
So,
And
and they were thinking of farmers, by the way. This was to help struggling and distressed farmers make money.
Gotcha. Thank you. And other questions, I
that's
saw
what they're
some hands
about,
raised, but I didn't catch
Yeah.
everybody. Gail, yeah.
I had two questions. One, it seems to focus on them being allowed to showcase and not sell, which is a bit confusing. And then the other thing is it said they can only run for a maximum of 14 consecutive days. So do you still have the concern about it, like hurting anyone else's ability to rent space if it can be such a short time frame?
Actually, 14 consecutive
Mhm.
days. They can run up to 45 days in one location.
Okay.
There's no limit on the amount of permits, and you can run 2 of these showcases simultaneously, which means they are getting doors, brand new dispensaries wherever they like, on unvetted locations, parks, concerts, venues of any kind, like anywhere, and they can run them over and over again forever. And so
kind of renewing it.
they could expand their space, right? It's kind of like, again, outdoor dining. If if their next door neighbor leaves, they can do a pop-up right next to their existing dispensary. Now we've got an even bigger dispensary.
Okay.
So it's showcasing, yes, because they can showcase, they can display.
Display but not sell?
No, they sell.
Oh,
This is a
okay.
retail thing.
Okay.
You just, yeah, but with music and with food, if they like.
Thank you. And next up, we'll have Kevin.
So I'm following everything you've said and I really appreciate you sharing it. But I'm not clear on what our action here is going to be. Are we commenting on proposed regulation? Is that what's happening?
Exactly.
Okay, and, all right, got it. Thank you.
Other questions? I think I saw a couple.
Comments, I have a lot of comments.
Oh, actually, we're gonna hold on comments.
Get to the.
We'll do it in the
get
business
to the
session.
comments, Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Any
have
other
questions.
questions before? I don't want to keep more too late. Yeah.
Mar, the way I read the bill is that permittees there cannot be more than 2
2 at one time,
at one time.
simultaneously.
Okay.
Hmm.
So there is a limit of 2 pop-ups at
2
one.
at the same time. There's no limit. So if someone has a retail license and they find a cultivator and a processor to partner with on this, right? They can do one on 34th Street they can do one on 36th Street at the same time. Provided the distance is there, right? Well, that actually, yes, it would have to be further unless one of those locations or both of those locations were congruent to their existing retail premises. But they could do that for 14 days, right? And then take a day off, get another permit, do it another 14 days, and do that
With the
again.
cap of
Up
45.
to 45 days in those locations. You could take this permit and move it a block away. Take that permit, move it a block away. Do that again for another 45 days. So they're actually getting brand new stores wherever they like for a good amount of time.
Quick follow-up on that. So like if you have two stores running at the same time, that doesn't count as like 2 days. Like for one day, it doesn't count as 2 days for the
It's two
45 minute
separate
limit. Two separate permits. Gotcha.
It's my understanding.
Gotcha.
I hope I'm wrong, but that's the way it reads.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Oh yeah.
A quick question. So let's say if a business were to have a permit in one location and then they leave because they hit their max, can somebody else come and have a permit in that location again too?
That is a really, well, it says in the same location, but it's not clear if that's specific to, that's a really amazing question. I'm gonna look again and see if that's answered, but if I had to guess, it's not. It probably wasn't even contemplated by the OCM.
Thank you.
And sorry, what was, I missed the beginning of that. What was that question?
It was basically like if one business hits their maximum location and they leave, can another business get a permit in that same location that was already there?
I see.
And the reason that's such an amazing question is because now we know that there are brands, management service agreements that are all under one umbrella. And some of those have up to 30 licenses in New York City. And so they could conceivably just switch out the licenses, but it retains the name and the branding. They wouldn't have to do anything else.
Wow. Gotcha. Sorry, this is all subject to approval by the municipality, right? This is all assuming that,
Who is the municipality though, Samara?
I would assume City Hall.
Is it? It doesn't say, it just says municipality.
Okay, so maybe that's something we should
Yeah.
write a comment.
Yeah.
So yes, stipulate, if it was me, I would ask for stipulations. I would ask for community board to be the body, which notice and review, and I would make municipal approval mandatory for these things even to happen.
Gotcha.
And I would remove the same block road exclusive use provision and keep the legal definition of distance restrictions from schools and houses of worship.
All right, any other questions before we move to business?
Todd.
Oh, Todd, sorry about that.
Okay, so our esteemed guest speaker, you're not gonna find somebody that has more of a big picture view in this issue than what you're hearing tonight. And I speak, I think, for myself and those of us who served on the cannabis task force, that the issues that are being presented are all things that we noted at the time and commented on. And the existing regulations that were passed did not, the issue of review, time, place, and manner, these were things that established directly or in practice over 3 years, the kind of things that really should be done for these pop-up facilities. And what's been brought to our attention is absolutely true, that a one-size-fits-all is not appropriate to our district, let alone the entire city. I must take exception with what you heard from Samir. It is customary, and in many cases, our community board has commented, certainly on city regulations, and where necessary at a state level. What I would suggest is that the kind of concerns that have been addressed, assuming there's support for it on the committee, should be recommended to the full board in the form of a letter, right? The other thing I would ask our guests is that sort of effort would work best if it were in tandem with our other fellow community boards. So what kind of consensus? I mean, obviously, me, you, and Catherine, a lot of these concerns that you've raised make perfect sense to those of us who've labored, you know, in the weeds in these issues over the last few years, right? What is the possibility of acting in concert with the other community boards? And what is the sentiment? Are there people that, I know that there are people that are libertarian and just want to allow this to free up the sale of cannabis. But what is your sense of acting in concert with the other community boards? So we can consider that as we debate this.
I believe, and I've spoken to several of them, as I typically do. I know I send my resolutions to you guys sometimes, our resolutions to you guys sometimes, but yes, I think there's consensus. I think that the other boards do not want to be cut out of the process, especially since this is a regulated product and the proposal is for a totally unregulated, new market, like sub-market. And so I think everybody would want to have some say and some understanding.
Why did CB3 choose not to have any comments?
I don't know. I will call Andrea and Susan and find out.
Great. To Todd's point, I think the only restriction or the concern on our end is that we need to have something to vote on at our full board meeting on November 14th, unfortunately. So the timing doesn't quite. I'm not certain how we could arrange to have a joint letter. I would need to look into that more, but I think it'll be important to vote on at least what our committee thinks about it, so that we can, have a set of stipulations that we could use, and then go from there.
So something that the OCM does when the public comment period on regs are done, they count the number of yays and nays, and then they summarize the comments, and then they allude to the demographics of the commenters. And since they're counting numbers, we should all send our own letters.
Yeah.
But a good strategy to really make sure they're heard is that we also send them via the typical municipalities email that we sent to, and possibly to Intergov, and possibly to the bill sponsors as well, and the decision makers in New York. So that's an idea to really get this across, and if people are getting it from several different boards, it's a good idea.
Makes sense. I think it seems like to make sense to, at least on the areas we agree, definitely coordinate and have this, similar language. I think what we're gonna do is have some of our committee members write this, and we can coordinate on the language, I think, if that makes sense.
Just a clarifying
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
What's the State Department that is doing
OCM?
OCM, what's that?
Office of Cannabis Management.
Office of
Thank you.
Cannabis
Okay,
Management.
Office of Cannabis Management. And that is the head is answerable to the governor. She appointed by the.
Yes.
He or she appointed,
Currently she, yes.
appointed by the governor.
We have a temporary, what is she, interim
Yeah, thank you.
executive
Okay, thank you.
director right now.
Thank you.
I think she's now like executive director. Now big.
Any last questions? I don't want to keep Mara longer, but any last questions? Oh, you sure? Okay. Okay, it seems like we're ready to move to business session.
Great.
So
Thank you.
thank you both so
Thank
much.
you.
This was incredibly helpful. We appreciate it. So with that, we'll move to business session. So we had, definitely the core concern is the community board input, right? It's not explicit. I think it sounds like people want that. So I'm curious to hear what people think, Samir made his comment regarding the other pieces, public consumption not being and the age restrictions and the other pieces, maybe not being something we should comment on. But I'm just curious what people think about that. I'd like to get some comments.
I actually do agree with Samir. I think that we do want to be noticed. I think that there are a lot of other forces to make a lot of other comments. And we should let them do that. I think we really want to be in the decision-making, notification part of this. And, you know, a lot of it is, and, you know, if you want to see it as an innovative approach to opening, the window for these businesses that have been struggling, a lot of this is about people who are growing cannabis upstate being able to not have their product go bad, and you know, that's their business. That's a whole nother part of this. But as a community board, we would like to know when and, you know, when and where these pop-ups are happening and be able to be noticed, just like Form 63, you know, an applicant, you know, if it's a kind of communication that should be official, where we do know the details and where this is happening in the district. And that the things already in the regs should still apply in terms of houses of worship, schools, you know. I'm surprised, I'm interested to know what Parks is gonna say about this and other agencies, but I think our work is just being, you know, listening and being localized source of, you know, understanding where these are located.
That's really helpful. That's really helpful. How do others feel? Yeah, okay.
A comic sort of question. And I'm just interested if anyone here is an attorney who might be able to answer it. In other states where I've lived, there are home rule sorts of provisions in state constitutions that get to exempt a city. You know, like it includes everything in the state except that city. I don't know, is that the situation here in the state of New York?
Yeah,
It is.
well, hold on, it's like this.
I'm sorry?
It's, if you ever look at an OCM application,
Yeah,
one of the requirements is you need to have an approval to even have the vote of someone. So everywhere in New York State, you need to submit an application to the county clerk, except for New York City. It has to be submitted to the community board in the district that you're gonna be opening the.
okay, so they do treat New York City
New York is
differently.
different than the rest of
Great.
the.
Then, you know, why wouldn't we consider saying, you know, this sounds great and it might work in every other
Right.
county
not
except
in
New York City. Just exempt New York City from
Right.
from this altogether and move on. Like, just drop New York City from this. This, we
Right.
won't do it
If
here.
the concern is that.
They can do
they're
it
not-
any place they wanna do
If
it.
the concern-
No pop-ups.
You mean,
Huh?
is that what you mean?
No problems, just nothing.
Yeah,
None of this regulation will apply to the city of New York.
Right.
Let it
Oh.
apply to other counties in the state and just exempt the city of New York from this completely. That, I don't know why we wouldn't do that.
So you're saying, that- just to clarify, you would want, no, like outdoor sales essentially of.
No,
of cannabis.
what, to be
Or do you
clear,
mean-
everything in this document, I haven't read this document. Going about what you said. Everything that young lady said, would simply apply to every county except the 5 counties that make up the city of New York. That's it. Like, it means that whatever is existing law exists today. And there are no regulatory changes that would affect the city of New York.
They do need, so just to clarify a little, and I'm not a lawyer either, so.
Okay, so that,
I think
but,
they do need regulations to define.
No, I-
the law.
I understand that, but they can tailor their
Oh, I see
regulation.
what you're saying.
And
yeah.
that is why I asked if there was a lawyer who knew, because if there is a home rule provision in the state constitution,
Yeah.
that can be done.
Yeah.
The city of New York does not have to comply with this. Like, you can exempt the city of New York and move on. I worked in the legislature in Illinois for a number of years. We used to exempt Chicago all the time. It was completely routine. This applies to every county in the state except the city of Chicago. Boom, period.
Give a, sorry,
Todd has
Catherine,
his hand.
oh, Todd, yes, sorry, Todd, I keep not looking over. Go ahead.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
So, in answer to Kevin's question, it's well established that the governor and the state legislature can draft their legislation and have it be binding on New York City. So at least with regard to this kind of thing, there is no home rule. And the fact that
Okay.
there, so, and I am a lawyer, right? But
Thank you, Todd.
You have a lawyer.
but what I would like to see happen with this is, I do agree. I want to second what Catherine said, which is that the sentiment and the spirit of what the state has been trying to do for the last several years, albeit haltingly and in some cases incompetently, is to promote the equitable and reasonable sale of cannabis. And however, and so I don't know, or me personally, as one of 59, I think we should give some deference to the state and try to promote that worthy goal. So the idea of just totally refusing pop-ups, I don't think that that's really the answer. However, I do think that it's totally reasonable and consistent with what our community board and past resolutions have said to allow us to get notice of the pop-ups and to consider the kind of guidelines as to time, place, and manner that we have done so far under the new program. And now is the time we should band together with the other community boards and come to a common position and make that point. And honestly, I know that in the task force stage, we were pretty consistent on all these issues. And it's true that the Cannabis Control Board and a lot of the regulations gave short shrift to us in performing the role that was delegated. You heard about no stipulations, foot dragging on making decisions, and and even the city agencies ignoring their own laws. So if we're going to be true to the spirit of what we as a community board are supposed to comment and be aware of these quality of life issues. So we should do what we can to comment and be supportive at the same time of the overall goal.
Well said, Todd. And you got a lot of nods in the room. So I think we're getting toward alignment here. I think basically we want to comment that we want to have input, formal input, and also want to align with Community Board 2 and others in the language we actually use to request that. So raise your hand if you have any other items you'd like to add to that. Yes, so we'll go with the
Okay, so
chain first.
this is the craziest proposed legislation, okay? Where if a community board approval is needed to open up a dispensary, we should absolutely be involved in approving a pop-up location.
Community board approval is not required to open a dispensary.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Is that
Well, hold on.
notification?
Approval, notifications, a notification and a vote in favor.
No.
No.
Well, they can bypass us, but they still want to see.
So it's not required if they can bypass it.
Have we seen a dispensary that's opened up?
Oh, yeah.
You said no to almost everyone.
No, that's a problem. That's a problem.
Well,
Something we're working on.
Because here's what happens. With these pop-up shops, it costs about 300,000 plus to open up a dispensary. The infrastructure that goes into it with cameras, security. By the way, OCM could look into the cameras. They could tap into the cameras at the store. The storage, the air purification quality. Okay, you can't bring that to a pop-up location. You can't say that this packet of whatever you purple hydro, whatever you buy, you sell over there, okay? A serial code, QR code, whatever,
Yeah.
okay, was brought here to this pop-up location by this cultivator, given to this dispensary. Because once you're outside and you're outside of the camera, it creates a climate where the staff could have a side hustle. And we all know people are gonna have a side hustle, okay? Maybe upstate, they don't think like that, but in New York City, you can't bullshit New York City. There is gonna be a side hustle. People are gonna take weed from some other places, from other states, and they're gonna sell it in Central Park, they're gonna sell it in Bryant Park, and that's the problem with with this. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think you mentioned it also, that, and Todd, as well, that it shouldn't be it shouldn't be a one rule fit for everybody. Because in New York State, when you open up a dispensary, you have to give a notice to the county clerk. Here, it's only to the community boards. And that establishes a difference. So we have to be involved. As far as the location goes, it creates such a mess. How do you, OCM has this map, okay, the proximity map. So now on the proximity map, you have to see which dispensary is within 500 square feet or 1,000 square feet, whatever the amount is, from the pop-up location, okay? Is it a conflict? Is it not a conflict? Is it within a church, 1,000 square feet of a church, 500, I think it's 500 feet, of a school, a church? If there's two pop-ups at the same location, well, then we just violated the 500-foot rule.
Right.
Okay? If two places can open up at the same pop-up, whether that, two different dispensaries. So if that can happen, that sets a precedent for why don't we just open one every 20 feet around the city? Right?
Gotcha.
And
So what I'm here,
and
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
As far as the rent, somebody mentioned something about the rent.
the rent, yeah, being higher, essentially they pay a
It's
higher.
not higher. It's higher, but you know what happens with the rent? They're willing to pay, but the landlords don't really benefit sometimes having a cannabis tenant. They can't get traditional mortgages because banks don't lend on something that's against federal. Okay, the tax, this 280C, whatever this legislation for the tax. You know how much of the taxes on a cannabis place? It's like half. Half of the money that you can't take deductions, you can't take payroll deductions, you're just paying tax on the gross. It could be a good business in New York City, but when you go upstate, there's less foot traffic. That's why they need these things, for those places to survive outside of New York City. We don't need this in New York City. This is just gonna be wild, wild west in New York City. This is gonna be a complete shit show. For the lack of a better.
So it's definitely understood. No, that's very helpful. I think what I would say first is it sounds like you agree definitely that we should ask for input. It sounds like you also think we should ask for some sort of more like higher restrictions on the location, right? That's
So any location, pop-up, not a pop-up, should have to be approved by the CB. And
oh yeah,
and it should never be a situation where OCM approves a location which the CB did not allow to open in the street.
Okay, so we'll go to, next to Judith. Yeah.
Wait, so Catherine, I think you are more, do you know, I mean, when I read this, I read through it quickly. I think that the proximity requirements are the same, right? I mean, they haven't
That
changed.
makes my sense, but there's also there's also these competing consumption rules where so there are businesses who are able to get proximity exceptions. And so I would like to leave all of that alone. And I would just like to focus broadly, because the community board notice is the first step. It opens the door both to us understanding and localizing public hearing, community input, and bringing our sense of signal to whoever's proposing whatever's being proposed. I'm not so sure I can, I read it and I'm like, well, what is parks? I mean, are we gonna see one of these showcases in Bryant Union or Madison Square Park? I don't think so, but it could happen. It could happen the way this is written.
It's a pop-up.
Right? So,
Christmas
right,
was sort of
and I
green.
can't imagine any of them. Is it part, in a political space?
I think you should get a notice to get a denial.
Thank you.
So,
Like,
All right,
You're not
everybody,
gonna get your notice.
let's keep it to just
the center.
everybody, just the person
Next to the
speaking.
skating rink, there's a tree, there's a guy selling weed, there's a
Just,
tree.
sorry, just the person speaking, please.
I would like to just, to really just focus on, notification to the community
Notification.
board as authorized by, the city of New York. As, it's just, that part is what I would like to see. I'm not, I
Gotcha.
can't even, yeah.
Can I do a quick show of hands before we do more comments? Who would, so we definitely got the community input piece. I think everybody agrees on that. Would anybody like to see a stipulation added on like restricting the location further than we've got in the regulation, please raise your hand. If you would like to restrict further than in the existing regulations, what locations these can be, and just raise your hand. If you'd like to restrict it further than what the regulations have, so we got 2, 3.
Oh,
That's actually-
I want it restricted as well.
You do, okay, gotcha.
Okay,
so
I can't, Seth, I can't hear it. What is on offer here?
Yeah, so what we've got now is basically, we want to add community input for sure to the stipulations we've got. We also want to add further restrictions on the location, so like defining it a bit further. It seems like as it's written, it allows for, essentially anywhere to be on the list of where these could be. So essentially restricting it a bit further, asking that they restrict it further. So with that, I'll go to, I think that's added. I think we have enough people to add that on. David, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we've all.
Yes, I agree.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It feels like we're all on the same page here. The question is what can we actually do to do here, right? So I think it's getting late here. We probably should come to some sort of conclusion as to what is the effective way to do things here. And then I don't know if it's possible. Can we alert our state reps that this is something that is really disruptive to our community? And, it's ultimately going to have to be changed in Albany, not in, City Hall.
So we're definitely, we should move toward a resolution. So the next person I'd like to, you could make a resolution. That'd be great. It's basically the three things.
So the resolution should be that we.
Wait, is this motion?
Well, the motion.
Yeah.
Should be.
Nice.
I make a motion for us to contact our assembly member.
Yeah.
Or all the assembly members. And state senators. And council members as well. To contact the governor and OCM to say that in New York City, any location that's open, whether it's a pop-up or not a pop-up, must have a community board approval before OCM issues a license.
Just to change, I think we wanted to be we wanted to be comment, like the ability to get noticed and make a comment. Rather than
We get notice that they're open in the community board in the district. We would get that notice. So we have to sign that.
No, that's what we're saying. We would not, if we don't ask them for notification, they don't intend on sending us notification.
Oh, no,
So
they
it
have-
starts with notification, and we don't, if I can clarify,
Yes, yeah, go ahead,
right?
please.
We don't even approve SLAP applications.
Yeah.
What we have worked hard at is advocacy that allows us to weigh in on an applicant such that SLAP takes what we say in a stipulation agreement, because we've done all this due diligence, that it aligns with what SLAP would, the state would approve. That's in line, and this is the same line of thinking. It's a state regulated process that's sitting in the locality, in which we would get noticed, and then we would be able to provide input, and then we would from there, OCM can do what they did, but we did our part to represent the residents and businesses, because this actually undermines people. This may actually undermine cannabis businesses,
really
but
quick,
I just wanted to say that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you, Catherine. I just want to prevent crosstalk. So I think that makes sense. So I think, Catherine, would you be able to make a motion as to what this might look like as a resident expert?
Yes,
Basically,
what do you want me to say? I make a motion that we, resolve to request in response to this, notification that we request that the community board be noticed. In the same fashion applicants are currently noticed, and that we be allowed to provide input in the same way that we provide input, and that there would be, also restrictions in the same way that is already restricted in the, schools, parks, houses of worship. All of those restrictions that already exist should be in place, when we're thinking about pop-ups. The rest of it, is questionable, that's what, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I will second.
And then Yoden had a quick question before we go.
Quite clear that the proximity restrictions are the same.
I think we can,
So,
You feel like it's in the notes?
The motion is to get notes.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go into too much of the details
detail.
on, yeah.
Right, so
I would prefer
whatever
sticking
exists.
to, clarifying what municipality approval means, because that's the way it's.
Yeah.
And make sure that that means community boards.
I apologize. Yeah, I think as we write this, we can keep that. So we do have a motion on the floor. Let's go ahead and take a vote on it. Yeah, Yoden, if you could call a vote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I know, I see it. I caught you in thought there.
Okay, Seth,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Samir,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Gabby,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Melissa. Kevin,
Yes.
me, yes. Zona,
Yes.
Lem,
Yes.
okay. So 14 yeas.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. That was super helpful. So last thing, and I'm gonna try to keep this very quick. I think you will have all heard by now in your other committees. Every year we do a district needs statement. And every committee, as part of CB5's statement, weighs in on that. So traditionally, just one second, then we'll go for it. So traditionally, SLAP does not have as much to say as other committees. As the list of district-wide priorities doesn't necessarily relate to the work we do. So the top three concerns from last year, you see on the screen now, were homelessness, economic recovery, and affordable housing. So these are obviously not necessarily related to what we do on the board, or sorry, in the committee here. So we did want to go through though and give you a chance to weigh in on the language. So what we've done is we've flagged specific areas of the full statement that might be of interest to SLAP. And we'll just look at them as a group here and, see if we want to modify the language there. But before I do that, I want to see if anybody has questions about the statement of district need, just generally.
Can I ask something for just SLAP related, like the district need? I think there could be more regulations on, especially for restaurants that are, getting a permit, being renovated or changing hands. There oftentimes as restaurant fronts is, it is just not very well maintained. People just trash the front of the restaurant, and because there's no operator, there's, people don't really take care of the fronts, and it's disgusting. So I think if it's possible, I think we could have more seek for ways to have more, get those areas more regulated, and maybe it's a landlord's problem, I don't know.
That is an excellent way to kick off, because actually one of the two areas we flagged was that. So the two areas we flagged as potential issues that SLAP could weigh in on are this one here. So core infrastructure, city services, and resiliency. The most important issue we flagged was cleanliness and trash collection. And so I've highlighted this area here where we've advocated for ongoing funding to support a precision cleaning initiative, which focuses on the high need areas for the issues that Andrew was essentially just describing. So I wanted to highlight this language and see if people had suggestions about additions. We can also have people send emails after the fact. But we do need to.
I have a suggestion. I don't know if this fits in the district needs, but I feel like with the outdoor dining, there were a lot of changes, and I feel like that needs to be revisited in some way. I'm not thinking very clearly, but I feel like there was a huge there were tons of outdoor dining establishments, and now they've really pulled back. And our role also has sort of diminished in that process because, you know, we went through this process last year where we're kind of only, we're not checking the, just the requirements anymore. We're just only flagging applications to DOT if there, are complaints, right? Or public comments, negative comments.
Yeah, if there are comments, exactly.
So I guess this is not a district need, but I was just, when I was thinking of sanitation, it made me think of the outdoor dining, and that's where my mind.
No, that's really helpful. Yeah, I think like you say, I don't know a place where we can put that, but let me just double check. But that's like, no, that's a good point. And it's something. So you're talking about sort of enforcement of the regulations as they exist?
Yeah,
Cause
because
that's.
I see so many that are just taking up way too much space and
Outdoor?
yeah, taking over sidewalks and,
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's something that we could put, and that might be in the first item, the public safety item. It's not safety specific, but it's sort of going through and enforcing regulations as they exist, essentially. If that makes sense.
Question.
And I'll come back to you in just a sec. I think we had David first and then Todd. David, do you have a comment?
No, sorry, my hand was up.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
Todd,
Okay, so could everybody hear me?
yes.
So I'm gonna add to what was already said. And some of you may recall that I was the head of the Open Restaurants Task Force and has followed this issue very closely. So it was apparent from the very beginning, or those of us that were involved in the process as it evolved, that DOT was new and was building from whole cloth an administrative and enforcement infrastructure for most of the new open restaurants and open streets program. And we said at the time that the money and funds available for enforcement, many of which were funded by non-recurring revenues, was likely to be insufficient for the task of policing and maintaining the cleanliness of the new structures and the new approach. And I've been looking very carefully throughout our district. I would say that the program has been very successful. No more sheds, and the type of structures that you see are smaller, more mobile, more Paris-like. But I have to say that I do see problems. I do see a lot of dirt and trash. I do see a certain number of the establishments not obeying the laws. And what I would suggest is that we recommend allocations of discretionary funds, to the extent that we have that influence, to be given to DOT or to other organizations that are concerned with studying the issue, or to the public-private partnerships, or to the other groups in the city that are concerned about this issue of cleanliness. And as far as Seth, it's a core infrastructure. If you can bring up the categories, I'm also on the task force. Where are the list of categories under which we would file this?
Let me top here.
So it would seem to me that the core infrastructure, city services, and resiliency, the core infrastructure in this case is the responsibility of the DOT to allocate the necessary resources to police the program. And we'd be well within our rights to, give them money if that's advisable, or we trust them, or work with many of the worthy nonprofits and city civic groups to either study it or assist, right? So that's my recommendation.
Thank you. And I think that aligns with what we started to say. So we can add that to this piece here, like somewhere around this paragraph. Because Todd, just to show you, this is the actual needs statement underneath that category that we flagged up there, so. We can modify that language, do that after the meeting.
What I would say, Seth, what I would say is make
Yeah.
sure you specifically mention that it's for the open restaurants and outdoor dining program.
Yeah, gotcha. One sec. Okay, sounds good. Any other comments as to what to add in the cleanliness category? I was thinking essentially just, focusing on our restricted areas. We've got, things about trash in that, those parts of the city. So, adding in specification of, trash there and, yeah.
Garbage bins, right? Like, this is new, like, last 6 months, a year now.
Yeah.
So how do we, so the way it looks right now, I mean, walking streets, I mean, it looks horrendous, and regardless of who owns these restaurants, small restaurant, big restaurant, doesn't matter. I mean, it's out, it's a traffic disaster, it doesn't look right, it doesn't look clean. Can any of this, to beautify them? Like, I've been in Sunnyside this morning at a meeting, and I saw a coffee shop who has outside dining or tables have their bins out, but they haven't covered. And I said, like, it was very interesting how they did it. And I thought maybe it could be implemented as a suggestion, a very simple and inexpensive solution potentially. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
and that could be maybe implemented as you have to, use that. I should have taken pictures or something that maybe I haven't seen it, but in Sunnyside it was cool to see. But it's probably like if you look at a barbecue cover, that type of material, it looks nice. It's black and it's clean and it's just. And it could be outside and.
That's very helpful, yeah. So we'll add that to the statement as well. So just so everybody knows the process, we don't have to do a resolution. This is just sort of ideation, and we'll put this into the statement afterwards. And also put it into the list of budget requests. Any other input on the cleanliness piece, and then we'll move to the other one. And you can also do this after the meeting as well. Just wanted to let everybody know. All right. Any other, I don't think we have online. Okay, so the last thing then is this other item, which we also flagged, public safety and emergency services. The most important issue within that was crime prevention programs that was flagged. And so what they raised that might be relevant to us is these two highlighted paragraphs. The first is that there's been concerns about crime on 20th and 21st Streets, which people will recognize as in our restricted licensing area directly. So I think we can add language there unless anybody disagrees around, having this coincide with, enforcing restrictions on establishments that we've got affidavits with.
So are you suggesting we raise it only for the RLA?
No, I think just sort of adding a bit of language in here to specify that this is also something that we're concerned with in the committee.
I have a question.
And it might be.
That's citywide,
What
right?
capacity are we covering?
District-wide.
District-wide, exactly.
Yeah, what capacity are we covering? Since we're basically liquor license and cannabis license.
Yes.
So like, to ask us questions on private, it would only probably have to do with the locations that we've approved or anything that's to do with approving licenses. I mean, how do we comment on somebody going into a drugstore and robbing them? Unless they smoked a bag of weed at one of these pop-up shops.
Well, it's a complicated, yeah, so it's not,
No, there wasn't.
it's not as directly, so it's sort of.
I'm just trying to make-
Insofar
I'm
as
just
it
trying to make
relates
the
to the operation of late night establishments, but it's not as direct as other,
Okay,
but we don't have to necessarily, so it's just, from this committee's perspective, if we have any, opinions about, you know, how this relates to late night establishments, that's something we could call out here specifically.
I'm happy with the languages.
As is, gotcha.
And we had it
This
in
is like
last year,
less
right?
relevant. Yeah.
It was similar to this last year's.
Exactly,
Yeah.
it is, yeah, very similar. So any other additions on the crime piece? Yeah, I see what you're saying. It makes sense.
Because it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
if it was parks and, if it was a parks issue and we have to comment on something in parks, we have no business commenting on it.
Yeah.
I commend you for bringing it all up though,
Yeah.
because we had the quality of, what is it?
Yes, city services.
Yeah, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
We had that last night and none of this came up and I kept asking like, well, you know, but I was told just these three issues.
Yeah.
So, and you know, it's not a rub on Tiffany in any sort of way. It's just that that's how we like had our conversation. But these are all quality of life issues and thank you for bringing it up. But I agree with you. It didn't have anything to do with slap.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay, any other comments or if not, then we can adjourn. Thank you, everybody. I know it was-
Yeah, perfect. My only unrelated comment was
Yes.
that
Oh, sorry.
Andrea did an amazing job with that,
Yeah.
good work, Andrea.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Okay.
That must have been a hard group to fill with.